We had a member who, young guy, just got married, found out he had leukemia, was going to fly down to MD Anderson. You remember that? And we literally handheld that. We were on the phone. We were coordinating with MD Anderson, with the flights, with the everything to make sure records were getting transferred and all that. And sure, that took an entire day's time. We don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
However big an issue is or a situation is to a member, that's how big it is to us.
Welcome to RBP from the Frontlines. These episodes of Claim Talk will be dedicated to giving our audience a behind-the-scenes look at our member experience. My name is Stephanie Moore, and along with Bruce Hanson, we'll be your hosts. Today on the podcast, we have two special guests who play a huge role in supporting our member advocates as they work to resolve critical issues for our members. We have Heidi Martinez, who is a senior service coordinator, as well as a senior bilingual representative for our members, as well as Michelle Henneman, who is a senior relationship manager, and she is also a direct link to our clients' HR teams as we work with them to onboard these plans and make sure that they're running smooth and successfully. So let's learn a little bit more about our guests today. Heidi, can you give us a little bit more about your background and how it is that you arrived at ClaimDoc?
Sure. I worked at ADP, and that is a company that services benefits, payroll, retirement services. And I had the opportunity to work with them here in the state of Iowa as well as Louisville, Kentucky. And during that time, we interacted really well with the benefits portion of things. And so that's where I connected the most. I appreciated the part that we were able to kind of just explain in full detail the HMOs and the PPOs and what that consisted of for the employees, right? And how they had to kind of stay within like either one provider or a listing of providers, and they really couldn't go anywhere else because that was their in-network. And so I connected a lot with being able to kind of interact and help them out.
Your passion is really what I think grabs everybody's attention, and your organization is...
You have to be organized.
Yes. Yeah.
Off the charts.
Off the charts organizational skills. Yeah. I was curious too, just the way you operate. And I feel like as a whole, our member advocates are dialed into the mission and what we're trying to accomplish here. And they understand the importance of the role and what it means to the people. So we're taking care of companies, the plan sponsors, but at the end of the day, it's taking care of people. You are kind of an off the charts passion person in terms of, your commitment to ensuring members are taken care of. Where does that come from? Is it just ClaimDoc is so special to you? Is it just, this is how I wake up in the morning, and when I make breakfast, I'm passionate about making breakfast?
So my drive. So I connect a lot with folks. I love the connection, the interactions that I'm able to have with folks. And for me, it's a philosophical fulfillment. It's a heartfelt connection, and that's what I want. And I think that's what has allowed me to kind of continue to want to grow here and continue to connect more with our members and clients. And that's where I'm at. If I don't have that, I look for it, right?
Yeah.
And so I find that here. And I hear a lot of our member advocates too, like they have that empathy, that compassion for our members. And I love that I'm able to hear that too, because I know I'm in the right place, right?
Michelle, you have extensive background in the healthcare industry. Can you give us more about that and how you arrived to ClaimDoc as well?
What she meant to say is you're the oldest one. And no, I do remember when I look back at my nursing career, which was brief, but only because I kind of missed that business side of things. I went to work for a major national, commonly known carrier. I worked there for a combination between Minnesota and Iowa for close to 30 years. And then I worked for another one of the BUCAs, as we call them, for another 6 years. And then COVID happened, and I got a message.
I tracked her down.
I got a message on LinkedIn, which, any other year I would probably ignore all of them, but I had time. Yeah. Lucky for you.
Yeah.
So I was like, gosh, I know about value-based pricing, plans. I know about PPOs, EPOs, all the EOs. RBP is something I've never investigated. I've never really learned about it. The large carriers, of course, don't do that. And so I never had an opportunity to look into it. And the more I looked into it, it hit me. It was like,
But you did blow me off the first time I reached out.
I did. Well, see, I wouldn't know because I did.
No,
I
you
blew up.
you responded, but it was pretty brief.
That's funny. Oh, sorry. So yeah, I started investigating, what is this RBP? What does it mean? And one of the philosophies, my personal philosophies that I've carried through my whole career is I get really annoyed when, of course, you hear it's the insurance company's fault. It's the hospital's fault. Well, kind of it is. But, you hear about, the fault of the cost of care, but that's always on the back end of things. I've always been just so annoyed at why is nobody looking at, why is it being charged what it is? Is it really the value of the service, the amount that's being charged? And why do we not scrutinize that? Go to the root cause kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so when I started learning about that, met with Bruce, really, we kind of just clicked over Zoom. And then we had a lunch, and, the minute you meet Ben and Amy, you're just hook, line, and sinker. I just remember Ben saying, so you're going to start Monday?
The trifecta for sure.
We just kind of are who we are,
Yeah.
and it either resonates with people or
Yeah.
it doesn't. And I think you recognized that passion that we
Yeah.
have, the mission.
Exactly. I was like, finally, I'm going to be doing something that meets my own personal philosophy. And until I worked here, I really didn't even know how justified that is. When you start really digging into the costs and the actual costs and what is being charged, and it's incredibly motivating. And I say over and over again, I could never go back to work for a network. When I used to work, for those large companies that, we would have meetings about how to spin the renewal, meetings about how to justify that the base renewal this year is going to be 17% for everybody. And then more on top of that, and so how do you deliver that? Well, here, I don't have to ask him, how do I deliver this? I get data, it's very transparent, and I deliver it. And it's always good news.
Yeah. The timing of your hire was terrific because we have so much homegrown talent here. We do a lot of promotion from within, the people that understand the program, the people that get everything that needs to be done to be successful. But we're constantly trying to look for outside perspectives, and your experience was absolutely perfect. You've seen the full gamut from the nursing side to the traditional network side and delivering that to clients. So, we tend to operate with a chip on our shoulder a lot around here. It's just kind of that, us
Right.
against the world, that pride and that, and you have a polish from being out there in the world. And I keep trying to chip away at that polish. try to bring out that angry side of Michelle.
I know.
So
Well,
I'll get
sometimes
there.
it comes out.
I'll-
but yeah,
I'll get there.
You'll get there.
So what do you not like about the Bucas? I just set her up for that.
I know. Oh gosh.
Well, if you had to
start?
if you had to start with one thing, like, as you've seen from the inside out, this delivery of a non-traditional, removing the network, like, just describe the fundamental differences in, both the perception of that and then the reality, whether it's for how it impacts the plan sponsor or that member, like, just that fundamental difference that you've seen from being on the inside in both.
I think that the Bucas do a very good job of, we are an all-inclusive thing. Look how easy it is. All you have to do is carry your card and show your card, and it all just naturally happens. And having been on the inside, I know that they piece things together as well, and it doesn't run as smooth as the perception is. And ironically, when I've talked with brokers who I've worked with for literally decades, and they do challenge me, and they say, well, yeah, but to work with an RBP plan means you have to have a TPA, and you have to have this, and you have to have, the different components that work together. And I'm like, yeah, but the one thing that we have that no other plan has is this member advocate role. And the service coordinator role, that they carry the load for the member to piece it all together. The way the Bucas function, I feel like it's just naturally supposed to happen because, these departments are supposed to work together. There's lag in communications. I could just go on and on about the things that actually don't work as well as they sort of put out, where we have member advocates who, yes, maybe have to work with various companies, but they are literally dedicating an entire day to one member if they need to make sure that everything goes smoothly for them, even the components we're not responsible for.
So like the obvious is the cost component, and you can feel good at renewal.
Absolutely.
You feel good at our renewals and showing them the financial results. But I think that's really accurate. The thing that doesn't get mentioned is the hand-holding that occurs within our program.
And like you said earlier about the perception, right? You get the perception that it's a single company operating and doing everything for you behind the scenes. And that ID card with that one logo is your easy card. Your get in, your fast pass
magical.
card. It's magical, but that's not really the case. Like you said, it's perception. And once they start working with us, they can see the difference in the support that they're receiving. And again, just wanted to call that out because it's so true. Once we start hearing the stories from the members of the amazing support that they're receiving and the guidance through the healthcare journey as a whole, not just with an appointment or something like that.
Why do you think, in your own opinion, I guess in your own words, why do you think it's so important that we have all these resources dedicated to taking care of our members?
Yeah, it's bottom line is to make sure that our members are taken care of. For me, that's kind of how I feel. And then as well as to give back, of course, to our clients. If they're missing any kind of resource, if we need to pivot and change and adapt to certain things, we do that. And we've done that in the past. And so we have so many layers of different professionals here in our office to be able to help them to accommodate whatever the needs are. If it means, rescheduling on a Monday to go on a Friday, we're going to do that, right? Or if it means, sending a wallet card over to the human resources because that's needed at that time for that particular client or organization, we're going to do so, right? We value the interactions that we have with our members. And so we want to make sure that we're servicing them correctly. And so when they call out to our office, we want to make sure that we have that one-on-one interaction. We want to make sure that it's a long-lasting relationship with them, that they're not just calling like they do everywhere else and they get transferred all over the place, that we have that bond. And so I feel that here.
Yeah, I work a lot with our sales and marketing teams, and it's an aspect to our way of life here that's really hard to express in a sales and marketing, aspect, but the devotion to that member experience and our ownership's willingness to put whatever resources are needed. It's really the beauty of this organization. There's never a conversation about, well, we have to look at the profitability of this client and do we want to do that? Or we have to look at where we're at in terms of the number of member advocates for the clients we have or the lives that we're servicing. It's having a sense of what is needed and what is right and what we have to do to ensure that the clients are taken care of. And it's hard because you really can't convey that to audiences, but I think it's something we have to own and appreciate and feel good about ourselves, that it's really about doing what's right.
One of the things I love is, again, coming from the bigger organizations where they like to throw a lot of performance guarantees out. And, it's always, what is the first inquiry resolution time and all of those things. Like, how quickly can you get somebody handled and off the phone and move to the next one? And how many calls can you handle? And we don't play into that at all. As an example, I don't want to make it sound like the problems are so big that they take a day, but we had a member who, young guy, just got married, found out he had leukemia, was going to fly down to MD Anderson. You remember that? And we literally handheld that. We were on the phone. We were coordinating with MD Anderson, with the flights, with the everything to make sure records were getting transferred and all that. And sure, that took an entire day's time. We don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
However big an issue is or a situation is to a member, that's how big it is to us.
That's been a day one belief here, is that you don't judge a member advocate by the amount of time, how quickly they can get off the phone and take another call. It's not answering a question, it's solving a problem. You don't just hear what they're saying, you're trying to understand what that problem is. It's our biggest differentiator, is just how much our member advocates care about not just doing a job, but doing it well and solving those problems.
I love when we have a complex case and, getting with the TPA or the prior authorization company to find out, can I get at that case manager? Because we're not interfering with what they're doing. They're doing the clinical side of things, but certainly we're gathering information and helping the navigation through the healthcare journey. We have information that would definitely benefit their case manager, and their case manager definitely has information that benefits us in terms of what providers they'll need coming up and things like that. So again, it's not a matter of just doing what we do within our organization. It's also working with all of the related organizations and knitting and tying everything together. A client recently said on an email to a member, ClaimDoc's quarterbacking this. We don't have a problem here.
Michelle, what do you think our members struggle with the most? What are those challenges, again, from moving from a traditional medical plan over to a network-free medical plan?
You just nailed it. It's eliminating the network. That's so foreign for people. What do you mean I can see any doctor I want? I don't understand that. Where's the directory? We get that question a lot. And really, it all feeds into the communication plan that the employer will engage in. If we have an employer who wants the easy route and wants to, just throw the card, get the ID cards out there and go use the plan. Truly, if you don't utilize the plan the way it was developed, and the program is an end-to-end program in order for it to succeed, and if you don't engage with a member advocate to help with that education, if you don't have an employer who will do that consistent sort of beating drum cadence of communications, you're going to have a member who continues to be confused. I think we try to do a really good job of that, but we also know that what we give to brokers or HR, they're throwing a lot of information to people during open enrollment, and certainly to learn about a program that is philosophically completely different than what they had previously. It can be a challenge to get that education out, but that's why we just have to continue to educate even after open enrollment time.
I also love that we understand it's not always going to happen. Mm-hmm. You can have a plan and you can have a program and members are supposed to do X, Y, Z, but we don't ignore the fact that they don't always do that. Mm-hmm. And we don't cry about it. We don't whine about it. And we don't fall back to, well, somebody else shoulda. Mm-hmm. We handle that member and we help that member just the same as someone that executed that program as it was intended to be. Mm-hmm. We've really built it up so that we lift up that person that didn't do things right. Mm-hmm. And I think that is really important, not to ignore those people that don't do it right. That's really what an RBP entity needs to do, is take care of those people and put as much towards helping those people as the ones that are riding that smoother path.
And that's also a big role of the senior relationship manager, I would say, with them taking that opportunity to educate their clients about what challenges they can expect with transitioning to this network-free plan, and how to make them feel confident and empowered about their plans. So when these members that do have questions, or maybe didn't pay attention in open enrollment, aren't reading their materials, they go to these HR teams with their grievances, and HR can say, hey, have you called a ClaimDoc member advocate? Do you have this information? Have you consumed it? And that really helps the program, right?
Just think on the surface how confusing that sounds to a member. This is open access. You can see any doctor you want to, but you need to call and make sure that you can. Yeah. Those two thoughts conflict a little bit, so they need help navigating how that comes together. And at the end, no out-of-network penalties. They truly can see people. They don't have to worry about, is it in-network, out-in-network? So it's a easier environment to navigate. They don't have to think about that, but there's a few extra steps they have to take to make it more of a positive experience.
Yeah, and every interaction that they have with our member advocates is educational. That's what we encourage our member advocates to do, right? Is send them a communication piece, elaborate a little bit more on the question, anticipate the next question so that you get ahead of it.
Take advantage of that engagement you have and make the most of it.
Yes, exactly.
I think Stephanie mentioned, the HR person saying, have you talked to a member advocate? I have learned since being here that when I have a client, that a new client or an ongoing client, I say to them, if you're comfortable, just trust me. If you're getting a lot of questions coming to you, we don't want you to be an extension of ClaimDoc and to know everything about it. Know the basics, know that, but I don't want you to know all the processes. And that's what we're here
the
for.
opposite, right?
And so
we're an extension of their team.
So if you're comfortable, have the first answer that you have be, have you talked to a ClaimDoc member advocate? If they say yes and I'm still not getting it, then absolutely they're coming to the right place. You come to me and we resolve it. And I can name 3 right off the bat who trusted me, did that, and thanked me later. Like, my door doesn't open as often. I don't get as many calls. And so they get it now that I'm supposed to call the member advocate.
Heidi, from your perspective, what do you see are the biggest challenges that members face in making the change?
Members think that they still have to be a part of that list, right? That they have to just connect to that list. And for our clients, for our members, they have this freedom now with an open access. Facilities, physicians, they're all going to be in network. And so there's nothing they don't know. Yeah. And so, it's a win-win for everybody, really. Clients are able to save money, and they've provided their employees a freedom.
That's way
being
too,
able to go anywhere.
That's way too positive. I need dirt.
Yeah.
I need dirt, Heidi.
I know what they're
what's
looking.
the pain? What's the pain?
And I think that's one of the biggest challenges. I think people are still kind of maybe stuck in their old ways, maybe. And so that's kind of getting them out of that box of like, hey, you can go anywhere. And we're here as almost like a concierge service to be able to say, hey, let me go ahead and reach out to your provider ahead of time. That way if they don't already have that demographics built for you, we'll make that happen. We'll make sure that ID card is there. We'll make sure that they have all the information and make sure that those claims go to the proper place, not to you, to make sure they go to the plan administrator so it gets processed accordingly, and so that things roll and are smooth for everybody. The provider gets the payment in a timely manner because they know exactly where those claims go. So doing that ahead, those steps ahead of time by our members reaching out to us and providing those nominations have been such a, I guess you could say, more of a stress relieving process for the members when they seek care. Yeah. And I think that some of the providers, they're kind of like, who are you? What are you doing? Why are you calling me? Yeah. And so at the end of the conversation, half the time they're like, we don't get that a lot from insurance companies just calling and saying, you want to give me what? The insurance information? Normally patients do that. They give that information to us. And we say, yeah, they're more than welcome to still bring that ID card to you. But we want to make sure if there's any questions, we tackle those before our folks get in there. And so that's kind of the things that that I've seen that folks maybe don't have that understanding of why the nominations are so important. And so
they have to take those extra steps to have a positive experience with the plan.
Mm-hmm. I think we do get a hint of what the other RBP companies are like, just because sometimes when we reach out, providers are like, oh, hold on, we don't do anything with RBP. They've burned providers so much. And we have been really successful in turning that around and explaining why am I calling? And I'm the one you call if you have any trouble, call, but I think our vetting process is unlike anything in the industry wide, not just RBP wide.
So as we talked about it conceptually, the challenges, let's hear specific challenges, things you've dealt with in the past where you're like, oh, I can see as a member, that would be tough. And then how that got resolved.
The most obvious thing I think is the balance bill, the fear of balance bills. I think that's the perception that's out there. RBP equals you will end up paying the bill. That's the feedback I get from some of my brokers that haven't listened to me like they should, but they'll get it now. I get on the phone monthly with my clients and go through the balance bill report. And I went through one yesterday. They've been with us for a while, and their balance bill rate is like 0.83 of all their claims are really resulting in a balance bill. Yeah. So, when those balance bills happen, again, it is so dependent on education to make sure that people know what to do with those. Sure, it's going to be a problem if you don't educate them to know that they need to contact their member advocate. By the way, the same member advocate that helped set you up to go to that doctor. So you have that person's name.
and number.
And direct email, communicate with them and send that in, and then just we'll handle it. And I think that's kind of the WIFM, or the what's in it for me, for members, kind of in exchange for that one easy card. We also kind of have that one easy card.
Yeah.
It's called a member advocate.
Yeah.
So obviously at ClaimDoc, we come across challenges every day. That's what we're here to do, right? Is overcome these challenges and help our members navigate their health plan. So I'd like to jump into some specific challenges that you guys have ran into. Heidi, do you have one in mind that you can share with us? What happened? How did you work with your team? What was the outcome?
Yeah, so we had a member of ours that had reached out to us, as well as human resources, concerned because we had already paved the way. We have already, built the demographics. We had already provided all the information over to the facility, and he needed surgery. And everything was good to go until a morning we received a phone call from the member, and they mentioned, hey, our appointment is going to be $33,000, and they would not see him until that $33,000 was coming. And we said, well, wait a minute, let's go ahead. We're going to communicate with that facility to see what's going on, because we had already provided all the information. There wasn't going to be anything that was due, and they were going to submit the claims accordingly without a contract. So everything was just going to be the way that it should, the way that a plan should go.
So the facility had agreed to everything. Mm-hmm. Everything was set and ready to go.
Yeah, exactly. And come to find out, it was $33,000, and we were questioning, well, what's going on? Why is it that now, after we had already spoken in regards to all this and provided that feedback to our member, that you're needing $33,000? Where did that come from? And so again, that advocating portion of things came into play for us. And while we still communicated with the facility, we still looked for other locations to get our member to, and make sure that that physician was still, if they had privileges elsewhere, that we could go to those locations, right? Because we still wanted to utilize the physician if we could. And we were able to be successful in finding another location where the physician was able to perform those services. And the member didn't have to pay anything else out of pocket. Everything went smoothly. He was able to get his surgery within a day and time when he had already had it scheduled.
So how close to that appointment was it when they decided to make that change?
I think it was maybe a week prior, and we had already established this, 2-3 weeks before the appointment. So everything was good, everything was planned, everything was set in stone, right? And so for the member to receive that was just kind of a shock for them, and righteously so, right? I would be shocked too. And so that was the one part that we felt, nope, we need to advocate, and maybe we could steer him somewhere else because this doesn't seem right.
At that point in that, I guess, negotiation, for lack of a better term, as we're working with the facility, were you involved with that? Do you elevate that to provider relations to try to get a better sense of what's the motivation here from the facility's perspective on, I guess, why they've kind of moved the goalposts on this appointment? Did we ever get an understanding of what happened?
So I was not the one that personally handled this particular one, but we had relayed that information over to provider relations, and they were able to communicate, and they wanted a contract is what they ended up wanting at the very end.
That's one of the big things that we help navigate on a daily basis, is the miscommunication or lack of communication that happens within, especially a large hospital system. We'll have, we always work to talk to the decision maker, the person that will accept the pave the way. And sometimes that memo doesn't get up to the front desk, the reception area where they check in. And, that's something that we solve probably every single day. And that's why we keep good records. Who did we talk to, when? And if, we ever struggle with that, then our provider relations team will jump in, and, they know how to navigate that facility in a more efficient way sometimes.
We talked resources earlier. If we just operate based off the assumption that initial conversation that went well is the end of it, that's misleading. Mm-hmm. That's not going to benefit the member. You have to staff and resource understanding that that first conversation isn't the end of it. Like there's going to be additional bumps. It may have been smooth with this first one and they said yes, but that doesn't mean by the time that member gets in for that appointment that it's smooth from that point on. And you have to be ready to jump in and solve probably 2 or 3 more problems before they get in there.
And usually those are quick fixes.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important that we have those members establish those
quick fixes for us. If you're in the member's shoes
sure.
and they get that question, it's like, the sky is falling, the world's ending.
Right.
But for us, if we're there and ready, we jump in and it's just a Tuesday solving that problem.
That gets back to the communication and education for the member to know, don't get frustrated and go home.
Yes.
You reach back out to your member advocate, who hopefully you're developing a relationship with. You feel so comfortable just picking up the phone and, saying, hey, I'm standing here, and they're not recognizing that you called in, even though you told me that you did. And that's a quick call for us, quick resolution.
Michelle, do you have any examples of some of these challenges that maybe you've come across that you've stepped in to help, or some of your direct member advocates?
I do. We have a client who had a member who was having a pretty extensive surgery. We paved the way. We had a contract established. It was a specialized hospital, and they required a contract for the member, which we did. And he was all set to go. And the hospital, in their infinite wisdom, called the night before, at 9:00 the night before, to vet the insurance with the member. And again, with the lack of communication, the member was told that his surgery was canceled the next day. He was supposed to be there at 5:30 in the morning. As it turns out, a lot of emails are running, middle of the night kind of thing. First thing in the morning, we were able to reach out to the facility and, clarify that we have actually established this contract, found out that it's really a prior authorization issue. The provider had never submitted for prior authorization. This was a very extensive, 10-hour long surgery. So how a facility didn't think they would need to reach out for prior authorization, I don't know, because that's pretty industry standard. And so, as we were saying, we don't kind of stop there. We don't do the prior authorization, but we're not going to say, oh, that you didn't do the prior authorization, you better figure that out. We picked that ball up and we ran with it. And we contacted, our direct line to the prior authorization company, did all the communication that we needed to, all the while keeping in touch with the member who, did understand the situation. We didn't want him sort of hanging, waiting for an answer. And so we were able to get that prior authorization pushed through quickly. Unfortunately, because it was such a long surgery, I think it was resolved by noon or something that day. So he did have to reschedule it. But, it's just one of those things. And, the big news about that is this was prior authorization. It's a basic function of the entire insurance industry. Whether you have Blue Cross, Aetna, United, you would have had to have a prior authorization. This was not an RBP problem. But yet
the assumption's going to be,
it usually is, right?
The assumption, is going to be that was an RBP problem.
And unfortunately, the client or the employer and the employee, they both got it. They understood. Even the employee communicated to us, I don't know why they wouldn't think they would need prior authorization. So, what was satisfying to me and exciting was that the HR contact said in an email that went to the member, of course, and looped us in, claim doc is quarterbacking this. I know we're going to get this resolved. And so I thought that was just a really great testament to their confidence in us resolving whatever the issue was.
Yeah, and Heidi, you jumped in on that one too.
Because she comes in at 6 a.m.
Really, and I was
There was already a 5-alarm fire spread across
Was it 1 a.m?
The MA bat line.
That's
somebody
right.
sent out a bat signal and Heidi grabbed it.
That's right.
I think that was a good comment though about the HR and the member understanding the role we played. And the role we played wasn't fixing our problem, it was fixing other problems. One of what we say is the biggest determinants of a successful program or not a successful program is what is human resources buy-in. Are they champions of the plan, or are they just going along with it kind of unwillingly? And I'd be curious to know, kind of from the relationship manager seat, how you see that HR team that is in there and fighting for the plan and understanding the value of the program, how that benefits the overall success.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a client who unfortunately is terminating with us, and it's really kind of a sad story because we're doing such great things for these employees and their families. The HR team agrees with that. I mean, in meetings, she had said to me before, like, you guys are doing more for our employees than our Blue Cross Blue Shield coverage ever did. We were in our Pave the Way experience with them. You know, we'd done thousands of Pave the Way requests and had like 94.5% success rate of providers who would accept the plan. Their balance bill rate was, I think, just over 1%. So their folks were really having a positive experience. And then all of a sudden,
and if you look at the demographics of that plan, it's a nationwide retailer,
Yep.
primarily set in urban areas.
Yep.
And their management level employees aren't necessarily making a lot of money. The people on the plan aren't necessarily making a lot of money. And it's just a little bit, disappointing to know the impact we're having for a lot of those people financially.
and multilingual.
Yeah.
And luckily, we have a really robust Spanish-speaking contingency in our member advocates pool. But
So what happened?
right, I was in shock.
You're always in shock.
I was like, what? I don't like losing clients.
Spanish.
So, we started hearing a wind of change, put it that way, coming from the broker, and, kind of digging into it, we discovered that there was a bit of a change in management. And the person coming in, who's a senior leader, apparently either had a bad experience with RBP in the past or had a perception about it. If I can anecdotally mention that, we were told that she said, if I knew this was RBP plan, I would not have taken the job.
Yeah.
And she didn't really give us a chance to demonstrate to her, to recap for her what we've done, give her some of those member experiences. They actually, that group had quite a few incidents where people really needed us. Like, I think that example about the cancer that went to MD Anderson was with that group. And so, it was really hard to accept the termination of a plan that's working so well we were the perfect fit.
Yeah.
And, just because of a perception that we couldn't seem to break, we're
unfortunately, that's coming out of your bonus. So we're losing that client.
Well, I brought you a group of 40 yesterday.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Well, I was just, before I came up here, I was talking, we were interviewing a sales rep, and he's been in the industry a long time, not necessarily RBP, but he was talking about, I just don't understand why more of the RBP vendors out there don't get along and don't collaborate. And I said, I hate them. I was like, I just do. I have so much hostility towards them. Part of it is because I know they say things about our organization, and when they say this stuff about me or us, to me, it's our people. Like, you're saying things about our people. So I don't like that naturally, but it's so many cases of preconceived notions about RBP that is from those other vendors just doing a half-assed job and thinking that clients should accept it. And then it bleeds into, you have a client that needs us and their people are getting value from it, but then you have a new executive come in that has this bad taste of it. And it just makes me resent whatever led her to have that bad taste previously. And it's just, I can't get rid of that chip on my shoulder.
Yeah. Their staff loved us. I mean, I remember all the meetings that we had. I mean, it was just a good connection, but it was that one person that came in.
Poisoned the well.
That was the end of
well.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the bad. Tell us about some good human resources experiences.
Well, the best human resources experiences are the ones where they are willing to embrace what we offer in terms of communication and education for the members. As I said, it's more than just throw a couple of flyers in the open enrollment booklet. That's the easy way, and it's the way that your employees are just not going to be educated. They're not going to take the time to read through that. Allow us to be a part of, open enrollment meetings, whether it's even through a Zoom or, however it is. In fact, with my clients, I offer, quarterly lunch and learns, or, I call them office hours. I'll reserve a 4-hour block of time on my calendar, and you can give them, this Teams number, and they can call into it to ask a question if they need to. Let us have access to people. I know there are a lot of very paternal HR teams out there, and they take really great care of their people, but it's really getting us to connect with those employees. And then, as we said earlier, did you contact your member advocate is your answer. Your answer isn't, well, let me find out for you. Let me, complain about that for you. No, let the member advocate work out that issue.
Support from day one is what we promote, right? That they have that open line of communication to their account management team, so that when challenges do arise, when things don't go as planned, they know that we are on their side. We're an extension of their team, and we're ready to solve those issues.
And I don't think you sugarcoat it. I think HR needs to know what they can anticipate or what they can expect. And they really do they're put in a tough situation when they implement reference-based pricing. They're going to get more questions. Yeah. They're going to get more complaints from people because it's changed and now they don't understand it. But it's just like life. Like, they can decide whether they know it's good for the greater good, it's good for more people. They're not likely going to get as much credit as they deserve for the work that they do to dig in and help it be successful. But if they want to look at it from the perspective of what can I do to help this organization, it's going to be monumental. It's just whether they can, and they're willing to kind of work through that and be champions of the program.
And once we start drilling into the data, they start seeing the reporting, the savings, and how that actually affects the members. Their deductibles are based on the allowables, and how their premiums are reducing year over year, or their benefits are getting richer. Then they, begin to feel that.
The other thing that I really encourage our employers to do is educate on the financial side of things. It's okay to explain to them how a claim adjudicates and what is reference-based and how is the claim going to, result in a lower out-of-pocket for you as the employee. Because again, employees they're selfish. Yeah. We are too. We're employees. What's in it for me? What are you doing? Oh, we're saving the plan all this money. We're going to say, well, I'm not getting a raise out of it. Well, actually you are.
You are.
Because when we calculate your coinsurance off of $500 instead of the $1,500, that would be the network reimbursement level, you're feeling it.
I just saw a post from a broker in Connecticut on LinkedIn, and it said, are your employees really getting a 4% raise? They're not, if their health insurance goes up. is eating into that significantly each year.
Right.
Well, this has been fun talking with both of you. I think the stories you're sharing about the challenges that members have, the challenges that clients have, are spot on for what our audience needs to hear. And I know you guys live through a lot each and every day. So thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Heidi, again. And thank you to you, our audience, for tuning in to another episode of RBP from the Front Lines. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share.